Hello, nerds, and welcome. We are Crossing the Nerdverse, bringing you yet another episode. My name is Travis, the undisputed champ of this podcast, and I am joined, as always, by my fantastic co-hosts. Weighing in at 95 kilograms, hailing from the Great North, he is the Nova Scotian gamer, Eric. Introducing next, the number one contender of the podcast, weighing in at 66 liters or 470 trillion cc's. He is the hyper king of hyper roll, James. And last but not least, introducing his tag team partner, weighing in at 15 stone. He is the Lord of Literary, the top of tabletop. He is Tentai Rai. And with that introduction, of course, we're going to be talking about pro wrestling this week on the podcast, specifically how things are moving to live service on streaming services now, or live events on streaming services, I should say. Mostly with WWE moving to Netflix. Of course, you have TBS and TNT hosting AEW, and then all of the wonderful indie promotions that are out there right now. Doing things on YouTube, various other streaming services around the globe. YouTube, of course, being the big one for everyone to catch highlights, find their new favorite pro wrestler on the indie scene. But before we get into our topic, of course, we always do a little bit of nerdy news to lead things in.
Well, we got something first.
Hit me.
So we had some fan interaction with one of our most recent episodes. So Jed Fuller, 4873, he talked about they should make T'Challa the King of the Dead and then have a different character take up the mantle of Black Panther. I thought that was an interesting take.
Yeah, that's a bold one. I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's a little different.
I don't know about King of the Dead, how that would work. I don't know if there's been one in the Marvel Universe. I figure Bones, you'd probably know better than anybody. But I'll let you finish that up real quick. And then Alan Lewis, who's commented a few times, says he hopes they cast John C. Reilly
as the next John Cena. Just kidding. You wouldn't be able to see him in any of the episodes.
And then a new one, Link Shelve Vendor, says it's going to be Killmonger who won in his universe and becomes the Black Panther. So the multiverse theory that we were talking about.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely. It seems like it's the simplest solution. And Jordan, yeah, was kind of a fan favorite casting. So I could see that.
It was super good.
Yeah.
Honestly, Killmonger has been one of my favorite.
That's probably the path of least resistance. I think Jordan really crushed that role. He brought something real special to it, and definitely kind of embodied the whole part of Killmonger.
So Bones, now that you can, what's the deal with the King of the Dead?
So there was a little run where T'Challa, there's a necropolis under Wakanda, which is like, I mean, you know what a necropolis is. So there's like a bunch of undead soldiers coming through there. Him and Reed Richards end up, down there fighting off some undead soldiers. Bastet shows up. They fight Anubis, and Bastet declares him King of the Dead. That's basically that.
That could be an interesting way to do it and still kind of keep the Boswick sort of thing with the movies.
You could easily do something like that. It can tie into bringing Moon Knight and Khonshu into the main MCU in a big way. And you can still do that in addition to bringing in Killmonger from a multiverse if you wanted to.
I want more Moon Knight episodes.
Doesn't everybody want more Moon Knight?
I think, I have seen a couple people talking about that whole Killmonger, bringing him in as Black Panther, which I think would be cool. I do like Robert B. Jordan, so I think that'd be a pretty cool thing. But I think
I thought it was Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan. What did I say?
Robert.
But the biggest problem with that is he died in that universe, though. They'd have to bring him from another one.
They would just bring him from another universe. And in another universe, he might actually be,
the Panther,
T'Challa or whatever.
Yeah, he could be the Black Panther. Like,
they could even bring him in invert it all. Bring him in as a villain turned hero, alternate universe. For anybody that's watched the What If series, that happens a lot, where you see villains from the main MCU coming back as like anti-heroes or heroes from alternate dimensions.
But also, I mean, I don't know. I think it would be cool just to recast them. I don't think that's like really a big problem either. There's lots of
we got a lot of
younger up and coming actors that I think that they could cast as a T'Challa for the main Marvel universe.
They definitely have a ton of options available. Anyone else have any gaming news before I bring up mine?
I mean, the biggest thing I wanted to just touch on a little bit was the Diamond Comic distributors filing for Chapter 11. I know me and Bones talked a little bit prior to the show. Like it's not quite. I don't know it as well as he does. I just read some articles. They're not as big as they used to be. They used to run a monopoly where everybody kind of went through them. They were the big distributor for everybody, but with, I think it was like around COVID, I think is what you said, right? Because in here it says around 2021, DC was the first big one that left and kind of made their own or joined a small one. I don't remember how they put it. And then after that, Marvel left and stuff like that. The big concern with this is just the fact that a lot of the indie and smaller time comic developers, like artists and stuff like that, they're gonna have a lot harder time. It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean,
of releasing.
As far as like the indies go, that is going to make it harder for them. But I think a lot of stuff is done now, like just by people, right? Like they're just distributing their own comics, which I've seen like several people become pretty well successful with that. Moist Critical, for example, has a comic book that he just runs himself.
No kidding, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's called Godslap. It's decent.
Oh wow, that's
a dope name. Like that's such a dope name,
right?
He also has a wrestling thing, you know. I don't know if you. I don't know if
ties
you
in.
That out. Yeah.
But a big thing to put out in regards to this, though, with Chapter 11, there seems to be some confusion among people and stuff like that. This does not mean that they're actually going bankrupt. This is a way to try to, like, survive what they're going through and things like that. So this in no way means that, like, they're leaving. Because I've read some different things out there. People think they're leaving. People said this is what happens when you wish for a company to go bankrupt. And, like, all these different things, like, no, they get to like reconsolidate and everything like that. Plenty of people have gone through bankruptcy and been fine. So
I think that
it'll
they
be interesting.
also that they have their subsidiary that is like the distributor for like Funko Pop, and I think that's like actually like a way bigger deal. It's gonna obviously they're probably gonna have to sell that to stay afloat. Just curious to see who will buy their toys. I wonder if it'd be like Hasbro or something.
Well, they haven't.
Solid chance. Hasbro owns everything else that I love.
What are some of the top titles and stuff that are on Diamond that might be the most affected, Bones?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I think the big major ones have already jumped ship.
Most of the big ones are already gone. I'm trying to scroll through real quick to pull up. I should have wrote down the names. So they already started selling off. They sold off Diamond UK and Alliance Games distribution. Toys is going to be next. People are expecting. I know they still have Archie was the big one I read that they still have. So let's see. Their biggest exclusives remain Dynamite Entertainment, DSTLRY, Valiant Entertainment, and Archie Comics. So that's the big things they got left, and they only have one warehouse still that they're kind of distributing out of. So they've had a lot of issues with distribution, it's saying, too. So
I'm not real concerned about most of those. Most of those have enough clout. Like, somebody's going to pick up Archie Comics, worst comes to worst.
My kids do.
Like,
they better.
Like, Archie's
Comics.
immortal, so...
but yeah, that's just something that's I'm going to be curious to kind of follow. I know I don't do a lot of comic book stuff, but it's interesting.
There's also like a lot of so I think the distribution is kind of different now than it used to be too, because you can order a lot of things online yourself. You don't have to go to your little local LCS anymore. You can just order them directly from Marvel. You can order them directly from other publishers. So yeah, well, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's also like subscription services now that'll just deliver stuff straight to your door.
Web comics are also a thing that is like becoming more and more common, more and more popular. I've actually started reading a lot of stuff on the internet as well.
I think a friend of mine, an acquaintance of mine from the Army does a monthly web comic. I'll have to reach out. We'll give him a shout out next time. I want to make sure I've got the information right before I...
And the last thing about comics, just so everybody knows that most comics, which I didn't know until this article, which I got from IGN, most comics are actually printed in Canada. So this tariff thing could actually be an issue for the comic book industry if it actually happens. So that could be.
But not for you. You'll still get them.
I mean, they're still ridiculously expensive here anyways. So like, with taxes and everything, you pay almost as much in taxes as you do for the comics. So, and the article title, just so I put it out there, is "The Superhero Worship Collapse of a Comic Book Titan is Bad News for a Troubled Industry," and it was written by Jesse Shadeen. I throw that out there because it is pretty good. Go check it out. Give it a read. That was my biggest thing I wanted to talk about. What kind of like the newest happenings going on?
Off your talk of price increases, the rumor mill currently surrounding Rockstar Games and Grand Theft Auto 6 is that they may set the new industry standard for base price of video games at $100. We had some speculation about this before the show started, and I think the consensus is as soon as one AAA company manages to pull off $100 base game release, it's basically just going to set the base price for all these other ones.
Somebody gets away with jacking up the price by 55, 60%, and everybody just kind of accepts that.
I mean, it's not.
I mean, I don't know though. I'll wait and see. First of all, if they do it, and second of all,
Right.
GTA 6 is going to be successful regardless. But that doesn't
'Cause
mean
it's GTA.
everybody is going to buy a $100 game. Like, I'm just not. I feel I'm not interested really in buying like a $70 game. Even if it's a game I would otherwise like play, I'm like $100.
Go on sale eventually.
Yeah, I'll skip it for now.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's a solid strategy for a lot of them because again, the easiest way to hurt these like big, obviously bully companies, as I like to call them, or these big AAA game companies, is with your wallet. Right, your purchasing power influences their decision making 100%. So if they're getting away with doing these things and we just keep buying into it, obviously it's going to keep happening, right? We help set the standard. So it's kind of one of those things. If they try to release a game, it's $100. You don't feel it's worth that much, don't buy it.
That's
You got to
fact.
remember, like the indie scene is coming up a lot too. Last year I had 2 huge releases in Pal World and Helldivers 2. So there's a lot of like the smaller places that are doing stuff that are going to start making companies nervous. Well, GTA could come out and be $1,000 and will still succeed. And yes, that's an outrageous number, but it realistically would.
It would,
because
yeah.
people would figure out a way.
Yeah, GTA is one of those
most games
IPs
won't.
that's just going to last forever.
Well, it's when you buy it, you get to play it. Like how long GTA 5? You played it for fucking 6 years and it was still good. 7 years, so like it's got longevity on top of like everything else. So
Didn't play
it's just a
GTA 5 at all.
different entity.
Yeah, but I mean, the GTA fan base is one with a lot of clout, and more important than that, they have a lot of loyalty to the game. You never hear anybody that is a part of the GTA fan base say, "Oh yeah, I really played the crap out of Vice City, but this one wasn't any good." They always tell you the same thing. All of them were amazing. They all had amazing storytelling. They all had amazing environmentals. Additionally, they were a franchise kind of genre-defining release and IP that have been copied 1,000 times over. And
I
just
mean, who doesn't like running around committing carjacking?
yeah. Well, like Eric said, I know y'all have heard me say it 1,000 times on the show already, but indies, support the indie scene.
Absolutely not. If it doesn't come out of Ubisoft, the quadruple A studio.
If it's
Quadruple
good,
A.
I'll support the indie scene.
But here's the thing. You're looking at the indie scene, and you're starting to get games like Murky Divers, games like Lethal Company. Helldivers 2 was a good example, indie.
Cuphead was also a perfect
Cuphead.
example of an indie.
Which is now on Netflix, which we'll get into talking about here in a few minutes. The indie scene is thriving, and these big companies, they can't comprehend how that works. Now, here recently, I want to bring this up, and then we'll transition. 5 minutes. Recently, with Mark Fishbach's big projects coming out, he's getting a lot of attention through YouTube and that kind of stuff. For many of you, you watch him on YouTube as Markiplier. He did a whole thing with The Edge of Sleep, where he starred in a TV program that came out on Amazon. It's a big push for him to try to get the Iron Lung movie kind of released and made and handled really well. Listen to him talk about what it's like in the scene just working on like television, because the people that are in charge of these major I don't even know what to call them, communities, things like Hollywood, things like game production, a lot of the people that are in charge of that are so far behind the times in what they feel like people do, what they feel like people want. We need to give our money to the indie scene. And the people that are in charge of these video game stuff, all they see is that they can crank profits up by 54%. They don't care what it does to us. Whereas buying something from the indie scene that's good, give somebody else a shot. But on the subject of Netflix, that is, the price of games isn't the only thing we're looking at. when it comes to streaming services and people picking up a major scene in the form of professional wrestling.
WWE Raw is now over and streaming on Netflix. They're doing, again, a weekly episode. Anywhere between 2.5 and 3 hours is their projected time frame. I believe the official wording on it is that they have the leeway to go until the show is complete. So some shows may be shorter and or longer than others based on how much storytelling they want to go through, which to me feels like a good thing, especially on a streaming service, right? Because there's no program coming on after it if you're watching it live, forced into a specific time slot because there's no TV show coming on right after it that starts live.
Yeah.
So kind of a nice touch in that regard.
The interesting thing being that they're in the stadiums and arenas and stuff like that and seeing them there. And then if it goes long or gets cut short, those people that bought the tickets, like that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. That could be kind of interesting how they're going to work the ticket thing out. Just because they've said it and they've came out and said that they don't know exactly how long like the shows will always be. You went to a recent Raw, so I figured you could give input on this just in that kind of sense.
A live show, like going to see a show live, is always going to be way longer than what you see on TV. And there's a handful of reasons for that. One is that they have what's called the warm-up match. That's basically to get the crowd going, get everybody used to like cheering and booing. So you'll have two people that really know how to work a crowd. You're going to have one person that can really easily generate boo, and you're going to have one person that can really, really easily generate a cheer. So in the show that I went to, it was Tozawa versus JD McDonough. Tozawa was the face. He was the good guy, your standing strong hero. He's also one of those comedy wrestlers, and it's just a good way to warm up the crowd. Right. It's your warm-up match that you get to watch. And so, of course, that doesn't make it on TV. After that, they have what's going to be one of their taped matches that they're going to show on one of their pre-taped shows. So it'll get cut and spliced in. It may get posted on their YouTube channel. It may get edited into another show that doesn't either stream or broadcast live. And then after that, the actual show starts. And then once the shows end, it goes into what's called the dark matches. And so at the close of the show, you'll get to see a handful of cool matches. Stuff that's not ever going to make it on TV. Maybe they're trying out a new guy. Maybe somebody's trying out a new gimmick, a new moveset, whatever. And they want to gauge crowd reaction. Again, that's a perfect opportunity in those dark matches for those guys to come out there and just kind of try some stuff out. It also lets people grandstand because it's not going to be anywhere besides on maybe like a really grainy cell phone video. So they can do whatever they want. Like there was a dark match somebody recorded on their phone of The Undertaker juicing up for a hot tag. And that is not how he ever did anything on TV, right? He didn't pace back and forth on the edge of the ring apron. He didn't stomp on the stairs during televised matches. But on these dark matches, he'd pour water across the top of his head. He'd stomp on the ring real hard. He'd jump up and down to get the tag and stuff like that. Stuff really out of character for The Undertaker. But it was a dark match, so who cares? So it's just kind of one of those things. So your live shows are always going to be way longer than your televised experience.
Oh, that's good. Just because I was very interested. I knew they would do something because they'd have to, just because you can't have the actual live event like at the location not know as to like a time frame as to how long they were. And I haven't been to a live show in fucking years. Last one I went to, Bret Hart was still wrestling, so like it's been a fucking hot minute. But so far it's working out. So far it's working out though, because I pulled up some numbers in regards to it, and like the first episode itself was, they're saying like 4.9 million.
5.9.
Yeah, that's globally total, but 4.9 million were watching it like live or some shit. So like that's the 5.9 is afterwards, like with the numbers after and everything like that. But that's huge, like compared to what they were doing for numbers prior to switching to Netflix.
So we can't base the average off of the debut show.
No.
Because that's always going to rein in extra viewers, right? It's going to be people like random clicks. It's going to be people that aren't really like repeat fans, I guess. People that aren't going to be watching it week to week are going to pop in and watch it just to see who's there. Because, I mean, you had Undertaker, you had Rock, you had Hulk Hogan, you had, Triple H out there giving an introduction because he doesn't get on the mic very often. You had a whole bunch of really high-profile matches. Kevin Owens was there. Cody Rhodes was there. Rhea Ripley was there. Liv Morgan was there. So all of these big draw
Travis was
people.
there.
I was not at the Netflix debut. I wish I was.
That's right.
It was
sorry.
in Los Angeles. That's too big of a commute for me. I can't just pop over to LA after work and then make it back in time for the following day. Also, tickets to that event, I'm sure, were astronomical.
Yeah, I mean, it was a spectacle. Like they made it a spectacle, and that's why the numbers are going to be
Right.
definitely inflated. But I mean, it will be curious to see what the numbers are going forward as it kind of starts to uh, become less of a novelty.
Yeah, it's probably gonna hit somewhere right around where they were on USA, if I'm being perfectly honest. So it's probably gonna hit that between 1.5 and $2 million or 2 million viewers per week.
I think you'll get a lot more. I think what'll be interesting is you won't get as many live viewers just because you can watch it whenever you want now. So I think you're going to get a boatload of people because, like, if I'm just sitting there doing nothing now, I can be like, fuck, man, I'll just throw wrestling on.
I have terrible news for you then, because if you don't watch the live episode of Raw before it gets archived, you are not going to get to see the full event. This
Well,
has
that's
been the
shenanigans.
biggest complaint from diehard fans of wrestling and Netflix is that when you watch it live, you get the full experience. And then the first few days afterwards, still full length episode, nothing's been edited or cut out. Once it hits the archive status, they're cutting stuff out up to 45 minutes.
Well, I think the big thing will be they won't cut out the main event stuff. So you'll still get you'll still get a lot of the big events. Like if you're a fan of like
I
maybe if
have
you're a fan of
such a
someone that's
huge
smaller.
problem with that, though. Imagine a weekly episodic TV show, right? Just in terms of any TV show. Imagine watching The Mandalorian, right? It releases on Wednesday. You watch it, you get the full episode. Now, James is busy. He can't watch it until Saturday. He watches it on Saturday, and it's 45 minutes shorter. That's a problem, right? Like, that's a big problem.
But the only thing I'll say with wrestling is there isn't always storylines with all the matches. So I've got to figure any big storylines though, those matches will keep and main events will keep. It is I agree.
There was no
they cut it out.
storyline between probably one of the best matches of the night that I got to watch, and that was Damage Control versus PFC.
Private
if that
first
gets-
class.
I don't know I forget what it stands for, but it's
What?
Shayna Baszler and I forget the other lady's name. But I digress. What if that match gets cut? That was super fun to watch live. That was a fantastic match.
No, you're definitely
And
going to
since
lose
it's not
out.
tied to a storyline, they just cut it. I mean, I'm watching that show to be entertained. If they're cutting out entertaining matches, that's a problem.
Did they release any sort of reason as to why they're going to be cutting it out?
No, but they also edited the past episodes of WWE Raw that have been archived to Netflix's deal, so you're not even getting the full archived, like, old episodes.
So there must be a storage thing is the only thing I can figure that they're doing it, and that's weird.
They have unlimited storage. Like,
There must be on servers and shit. There must be something tied to it.
I'm sorry, Peacock had the entire WWE library. Tales from the Indies, every single pay-per-view WWE has ever done. Every episode of Raw, every episode of SmackDown, every episode of WCW, and you're telling me Netflix doesn't have the space?
I mean, I'm just throwing out a possible reason here. I don't actually know. I'm like not the most guy. I think you could thumb drive, increase your space.
You talk about Peacock. The amount of Peacock content that Peacock has compared to Netflix is it's not comparable.
I mean, yeah, Netflix is going to have the bigger library, right?
But yeah, I mean, in addition to this, I agree. I think it's a problem. I think it's a big problem. And then in addition, Netflix is also raising their prices for people who subscribe to them after reporting the greatest year they've ever had.
Yep. Along with also announcing their shift to doing more live-centered content. Like, they want to be broadcasting you stuff live.
So we're just going back to cable now.
Yeah, and
that's what we've been
100%
doing.
the vibe I've been getting. Yeah, the
Full
longer.
circle.
Yeah, here we
Well,
are.
that's
I
what it
made
is,
the
'cause-
same comment before the show started, where it's like we just traded cable for a different demon. Like,
Well, but we did initially. Now we are because all the channels are forming their own. Like Paramount content used to be on, like a Netflix or a Hulu. Now it's its own thing. So now we are going back to cable because everybody's finally creating their own streaming service. It's
Thank God
taken
for
a
the
while,
internet.
and unfortunately, that's kind of the way we're going.
I'm not saying people should put up the Jolly Roger. If you catch my drift.
Not saying that
I'm-
out loud.
I'm
I need
just
to
gonna
get one to
say
hang in the back.
I understand. I get it. Because these streaming services, I mean, you got to think the average right now, week to week, because again, it's still very fresh, so people are still tuning in because it's new on Raw. Everyone's talking about, oh, they had such a huge shift down from like 5 million whatever viewers to like 3.7 the very next week. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's a debut. Like pilot episodes and premieres of shows are always going to generate higher viewership as opposed to like mid-season stuff, right? Or the following weeks, because people are going to tune in and go, nah, I like that, or I don't like that, and either keep watching or stop watching. So seeing this huge downturn, I don't think is a big problem, especially when you compare it to like the average AEW viewership at like 600,000.
And the big thing is, man, is it's Netflix. Like, people are going to keep watching it, even the archive shit. Doesn't matter what they cut out. So they're
There's
still going to
hardly
get
any
their
archive
stuff.
right now. So if you really want to watch cool archived stuff from pro wrestling, it's either going to be Peacock.
So is Peacock keeping
Or
all that
pirate
content?
What a fantastic question. No one knows.
Ooh, that's interesting.
As it sits right now, they still have a contract with Peacock for the foreseeable future. I think until 2026, 2027, something like that. But USA Network just renewed the contract with WWE for SmackDown. So who knows? Who knows where any of this is going? At the end of the day, everything's going to get bought by Disney anyway.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
I don't
So-
think they'll
so
buy
pretty
wrestling. I think they're going to buy Apple first.
If the
Apple
money's
will buy
right.
them.
If the money's right, Disney will buy anything. It's like Hasbro. If the money's right, Hasbro's buying it.
Yeah, it's a valid statement.
Or if he thinks he can keep himself relevant, Elon Musk will buy it.
That's fair.
Yeah, let's be honest here.
He'll change its name.
The Mars Wrestling Network. That's what it is.
Mars Championship Wrestling.
The
Could you imagine? Yeah, he would change it to something ridiculous like that.
Okay, so we got to transition into this next big wrestling topic that I'm very curious about. So now with the content coming out on Netflix, it looks like the pay-per-views will be coming out on Netflix.
Eventually.
But isn't the Royal Rumble coming out on Netflix instead of pay-per-view?
Peacock.
I thought
And
they had a thing.
they're not pay-per-view anymore.
I thought they were coming out on Netflix. I thought I saw the Rumble on there on my Netflix thing.
Pretty sure it's still going to be streamed on Peacock. We'll look right now. I'm consulting the spirits.
Nice. But yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to have it all on Netflix, or even the fact that it's on Peacock. I'm curious if it ever hurt their numbers compared to just having it as pay-per-view events like everyone else does. I didn't realize they were straight up on Peacock. I thought they still had pay-per-view events.
I didn't realize that either.
Both. It's going to be on both.
Dude, Peacock's got to be so mad because you know that more people are going to watch it on Netflix. Well, actually, maybe not because of the Mike Tyson fight, how bad that was live. Holy fuck.
So bad.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The best thing about that entire boxing match was when they cut to the locker room and Mike Tyson was walking around hugging people and kissing them on the cheek with his cheeks out. Like,
I wish I could do that.
Same.
I mean, not that I would make fun of him for it because he just caved my head in, but
I'm curious, when it started being only on Peacock, like, did that affect their pay-per-view stuff? Like money-wise, revenue or anything? Because I know you're still paying for Peacock, but...
No, you actually got to just transfer your subscription service over because there used to be the WWE Network where you could watch all of this archived stuff, which was its own like streaming service.
Oh, I'm talking their
way back.
I'm talking their actual live stuff that they do, like the Royal Rumbles and WrestleManias.
That was on their WWE subscription service that got rolled over to Peacock.
Okay.
Yeah. So you didn't lose anything, so you weren't like missing out. They just transferred their own like streaming service to Peacock.
Damn, so they haven't done pay-per-views in eons.
Yeah.
Shit.
No, it's not. It's why they don't call them pay-per-views anymore. They call them premium live events, which is such a lame name. Like, it's so terrible. And I don't think they can call them pay-per-views because you're not paying to view it.
Yeah. Well, you are, but not extra. I know
Yeah,
what you
you're
mean.
not paying for a specific event.
Man, I'm actually going to watch the Royal Rumble now because it's on Netflix. Not even bullshitting anybody. I'm going to be popping
The Royal
it on.
Rumble's one of my favorite events of all time. I love the Royal Rumble. Royal
It's the
Rumble
one
and
game
King of the
mode.
Ring.
One game mode I always play, dude. Even when I downloaded the free one on my PlayStation. Fucking Royal Rumble. I take the worst guy and try to make him win.
The trick is to avoid damage in that game. Just don't get hit. Just run around.
Just in circles.
Yeah, just avoid aggro.
Ooh. When do you do that in real life? Oh, they should get like some cheapo wrestler to just run around in circles.
Oh, they do that. They do that every year. They have one guy try to
Run circles.
yeah, like skeevy his way all the way to the final. They've actually had people win that way, where somebody will get knocked out through like the middle ropes,
Ooh.
and will just play possum on the side of the ring until there's like 2 people left, and then they'll just run in and get a quick elimination.
I think Logan Paul's taking it this year.
Okay. I've made my prediction.
Nobody had stuff on that one, yeah.
It's gonna be Roman Reigns.
I can't. He's just done too much all the time. Like, they got to get somebody else.
Do they though? Do they?
At fucking some point, man.
5 WrestleManias in a row, it was Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. 5 consecutive.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
So they got to change it up with Netflix, dude. Netflix is not gonna be able to do 5 events of the same motherfuckers. Jesus.
It's not 5 events in a row. It was 5 WrestleManias, so they were a year apart.
Oh, my fucking bad.
I'm just saying. There's a year in between WrestleMania. It only happens once a year.
At some point, they need to just let CM Punk have his main event. God damn.
CM Punk's so old. I was so close to him at the show. I was looking at him. I was like, "Ooh, buddy, there's a lot of gray in that beard."
Sitting.
He's over there looking like Ryan.
Had to call it out. Had to do it.
Look at all the gray in your beard.
You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong.
I mean, it's just a gray beard. There's no gray in it. It's just gray.
Yeah, it's just gray, the whole thing. Which is why Bones shaved his. No,
gotta get rid of it before it starts showing.
No, we had mid-tier. I mean, we weren't close enough to where the insults I shouted were heard by the wrestlers.
Oh, that's
But
no fun.
Yeah, I was a crowd pleaser. I always try to get weird chants going at live events. Which, if you guys ever go to a live wrestling event, try and get a weird chant going. Because they're the most fun. We had a Fear the Forehead chant going for JD McDonough because he's got a gigantic forehead. He looks like a Klingon. There's a lot of forehead on that man. I wouldn't say it to his face, but I might say it to his face. I don't know.
You would. It's all right. He's not going to hit you.
I'd say it with a head start, but he does. He's got a big forehead, so we chanted "Fear the Forehead." Shayna Baszler was out there, so we started chanting "Too Much Eyeliner" because she does the big winged eye makeup. We chanted "Pepsi Phil" for CM Punk, which is always a good one.
All right, we got to do another big thing. Do you see them doing any new event because of Netflix? What do you see them changing because of Netflix? There's got to be something that Netflix wants them to do different. I mean, there's no way they can want them to stay the fucking same. Because nothing against wrestling, to me, it was almost not getting stagnant, but I don't know. It's at a point where it wasn't as interesting to me.
So it was very stagnant under Vince, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. Vince was telling the same story with the same 6 people for the last 4 or 5 years of his
right. So what do you think
weird
they're
reign? They've already made the change. That's why Triple H is doing long-term storytelling. That's why we're cycling people in and out of main events. That's why we're again moving to Netflix. That's why
yeah, but
we're doing all of these things.
They're going to do anything different with the Netflix thing now? Are they going to make a new event instead of having not instead of Royal Rumble, but do you think they'll make a new one? Kind of throw a Netflix name to it or some shit?
No, they've already cut shit out.
So they're making it shorter.
Well, they're not making it shorter, but they're already cutting out a ton of premium live events. Hell in a Cell is now just a match type instead of its own pay-per-view. They're going to bring back Bad Blood, which is one of my favorite pay-per-view events that they did. They cut out New Year's Bash. They cut out
Money in a Bag.
No, Money in the Bank's still a big one.
Money in the Bank?
Money in the Bank is also another really good one because it leads to so many great storylines. And speaking of Money in the Bank, Tiffany Stratton cashed hers in because it's Tiffy time. She's a champ now.
I want to see Netflix owner or some CEO or something for Netflix be on Raw and hand out Money in the Bank.
No.
Just put the fucking Netflix thing on it and be like, ha, I'll buy your belt.
They already have logos. They already have logos in the ring now. I was like, ugh,
Jesus.
Yeah, it's like Snickers, Netflix, Cricket Wireless.
I'm waiting for them to do hockey and the fucking mat itself down below will just be rotating fucking not commercials, but advertising going while they're fucking slapping the shit out of each other.
They do advertisements in between matches. Like, so when they
No, I
cut
mean,
to a
like-
commercial break between matches at live events, they'll run commercials on the Jumbotron.
Oh no, I mean like the actual mat they're wrestling on. Like, because if you watch hockey, you see the boards now that continuously change advertising. They're gonna do it on the mat. I see it coming.
It's a little harder to do that on the mat because you either have to project down, which is going to lead to some weird shadows as the wrestlers move around, or they have to make it an LED board, which sounds like it's going to be really expensive every time somebody gets body slammed and that shit breaks.
Netflix will find a way. That will start putting like advertising on people's asses or something. It's coming.
I was just really glad that the Prime logo wasn't in the middle of the fucking ring. That was like my big thing. I was like, I swear to God, in this Netflix debut, if it says Prime in the middle of that ring, I'm out.
They'll turn the like the skirting around the bottom of it instead of like being able to get under there. It'll just be like a big screen now, just constant advertisements going around.
The hard camera side is already an LED board. It's skirting around the rest, but the hard camera side's LED.
All right, so who's everybody's pick for the Royal Rumble? Who do we think's winning? I know Travis's. He put his out.
Let me phrase it this way: who do I want to win, or who is going to win?
No, it's who's gonna win. Like, let's get them. We got to talk about
Roman
that.
Reigns.
You really? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't see it. I mean, I can't. You know wrestling better than me. I'm going with Logan Paul because I know he's in it. He's fucking. He's got pop to him.
He's gonna hit the spot. He's gonna hit the pop spot, and then that's it.
He's winning it, dude. He's gonna win in a super fucking cheap way, though. Like, he's gonna be one of the last ones in, or the last one in, or some shit, and that's how he's gonna win it.
John
We'll
Cena.
return to that. There's a chance. He's in the
I know,
2025 Royal Rumble.
He's in it. I know.
There's a
I'm
chance.
looking right now.
There's
All
a
right.
chance.
That's who my money's on.
This is his farewell tour. He might get it. We don't know.
Ooh, the sympathy vote. I like Cena, though, man. As much as I hated him when he first came out, because I was like, this fucking idiot. Like, he has grown on me. Like, he really has. Maybe because he always goes and hugs kids when they want him to. Not in that creepy way.
But no, he's good with his fans. He really is.
Yeah.
And he knows how to play to them.
He does the most on the planet.
Yeah, he has the
Make-A-Wish.
record for like most Make-A-Wish.
By like a lot.
Yeah, by a considerable amount. That's all he did for like 6 years straight, it seems like.
Yeah, he like gives a shit. Like, he's like, this kid, we need to do something. But we also don't hear about the times that like little kids get to play games and shit too. But yeah, what's up,
We've
Ryan?
skipped over Ryan.
Back and forth. I'm actually inclined to disagree with Bones. Like, as a farewell tour, I think it'd be cool storytelling to give him an easy way out. The only thing that makes me hesitate is we don't traditionally see storytelling like that, right? And
not wrestling.
Well, and I get hesitant because after the big debacle with Hulk Hogan on Netflix, I don't know how much bringing some of these other guys in is really like appealing to the fan base. But I think I can agree with Bones.
Yeah.
So we got 2 votes Cena, 1 vote Roman, 1 vote Logan Paul. Here's
Prime Sports Drinks winning it all, baby.
Can we all vote to get rid of Eric off the podcast?
Just produce.
That's a dangerous precedent to set.
What's everybody's surprise entrant going to be? Like an unannounced entrant into the Royal Rumble?
I think his buddy, Logan Paul's buddy. He's going to somehow make his way into the Royal Rumble.
I Show Speed's going to be in the Royal Rumble.
Oh dear!
I'm actually for that.
I feel like
Speed. I feel like that's likely. Like I feel like that's kind of likely.
That is actually super likely.
Or his brother. I wouldn't be surprised if his brother came out either.
Jake Paul.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be his buddy from fucking Prime.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that's the most likely.
I can never think of his name, but
Show Speed.
Is it?
Yeah. I'm gonna, since I picked with my brain for the winner, my surprise entrance, I'm gonna pick with my heart.
Okay.
And I hope Big E makes his triumphant return to WWE after being gone with a very severe neck injury for the past few years, and absolutely crushes Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods in the middle of the ring. Like, I hope he yeets them into the stands.
Is he going to wrestle again? I thought he couldn't ever.
I hope so. He's been kind of cagey about his medical status with his neck here lately, so I mean, it may be to generate false hype for the Royal Rumble, but I would absolutely lose my mind if Big E came back. He is the power of positivity. He's one of those dudes that just is a good person because being good feels good. You know what I mean? Like, he's just a good dude to be good. And if you haven't read his little synopsis about his early life, definitely go and read it. Like, I'm not saying it moved me to tears, but I was very close. his story growing up is absolutely wild. So we have two. Bones, are you voting I Show Speed? Yeah, that's a good pick. Like, that is a really good pick. Ryan, who you got?
Zack Ryder.
Zack Ryder? Oh,
Yeah.
that's not a bad one. He's got kids to feed.
He's got kids to feed. His wife is now working under the WWE. He's never worked under WWE without McMahon at the helm. I think Ryder coming back would be a big one.
That would be dope. That was by far one of my favorite character slogans was "I've got kids," and that was Zack Ryder. It was so good.
It definitely won't be Hogan. That's one thing we can
Dude,
fucking
We've
guarantee.
learned, yeah.
Can't. That dude's knees don't bend. Did you see him when he walked out there? Looked like somebody. Yeah, it looked like somebody propped up a dish sponge on toothpicks. Like, it is not looking great for that man's knees.
Rough.
He
He's like a gajillion years old, and he did a leg drop for like 60 years. Like,
yeah, no, he beat his body up like
his hips and knees are shot.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Speaking of knees, Stone Cold finally had his full knee replacement surgery like 6-7 weeks ago.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and then he had to go back to have it touched up because he decided that he felt good, so he would just go do normal workout stuff.
I mean,
Sounds like him.
Mick Foley could come back. All right, he's only 60, so
He did just lose 100 pounds. He's working out. Man's looking good. He can bring the sock back.
I would love to see Mankind just fucking pop out of nowhere.
He still honestly has the most appearances in a single Royal Rumble. Because one year he came in as Dude Love, Cactus Jack, Mankind, and Mick Foley.
That's true, actually. I didn't think about that.
He was 4 out of 30 people. He was 4.
Here's the ultimate question. When he used to stick that sock into people's mouths, how many times do you think he used like some dirty, raunchy sock?
He never washed his ring gear.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So he probably used a pretty raunchy sock to put in people's mouths.
He was notorious for wearing his ring gear as casual clothing. One time he cashed in his airplane tickets. Triple H tells the story because he was his travel buddy.
Yeah.
Mick Foley cashed in his airplane tickets, rented a car because he had gotten a trash bag full of popcorn from the vendors after the event. He showered after the show, put his clothes right back on after using his t-shirt to dry himself off. Rented a car and drove to the next event.
He's a man of the people.
He is a man of the people.
He is.
But we do have to talk about other streaming services since we focus so much on Netflix, obviously WWE being the big one right now. AEW is also available to stream,
somewhere.
You're saying somewhere. TBS has its own streaming app, so if you pay for
I don't even know what TBS
AT&T,
is.
It's a cable channel. Do they not have it in Canada?
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure TBS is in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't even know.
Yeah, now I kind of want to Google it. But yeah, so you can stream it on the TNT. TNT and TBS both have an agreement with, I think it's AT&T, where you can stream AEW and some of their other shows and stuff like that off of their app. So again, streaming services really opening up the door for other promotions. Obviously, not just WWE. So if you're a big fan of AEW, again, available to stream. Their shows actually stayed fairly steady, right around that 600,000 mark, and they're doing good enough that they trade back and forth with NXT, which is also on Wednesdays, so they're in direct competition with one another, and they pull about the same viewership week to week.
NXT is like the AAA of Raw. That's where they're up and coming talent and people who just aren't quite hitting enough.
Yes and no. It is one of their talent development programs. It's like the final step of their talent development program.
What I'm saying,
but also
AAA.
some of their but they also have some of their long-term dudes that are down there in NXT too to help bring those people up.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have some veterans and stuff on there.
AAA teams always did too. They go down to a pop spot for a minute, or they might just finish out their career there because they're not good enough to hit, be in the main game anymore. So
yeah, but you have some people that were way better on NXT than they were in anywhere else. Just because of the characters they got to play, specifically guys like Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole, all those guys were way better.
None of them. Adam Cole, I know that one.
Adam Cole. Baby.
I remember him. Yeah, he was an interesting character.
He's back. Yeah, he's on AEW now. He's back from injury. He's married to a dentist, I think.
Good.
I did not know that, actually.
But yeah, she's also a professional wrestler. Her name's Britt Baker, and she is a dentist. It's one wish that were part of like a joke or a storyline. She's an actual fucking practicing dentist.
But the big thing, the main reason we focused on the WWE is because I personally never saw them going to a service like Netflix, where they probably don't have the same control as they do. AEW's been on streaming services sort of from day one, so it's not anything too new. But for WWE to go, man, I'll forever be surprised that it happened.
I don't foresee Netflix getting involved in the creative process on WWE.
The only thing is if it dips too much, I mean, I think they would, just because they've dropped some really good shows. Just because, like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know why they did. Like, Altered Carbon, was that one of them? I think that was it. That was a fucking amazing show.
Yeah,
And,
I
like,
think they just kind of
dropped it,
ran
so
out of things they could do with that story. Like, you kind of...
that might have been it. But, like, they've dropped some good shows rather quickly. Like, they cut sling load fast. So, like, if WWE ratings start going,
Yeah, Netflix
we might see them get involved.
Netflix doesn't hesitate to cut things that are not
Yeah.
successful.
And
But
they
you
can't
also...
cut WWE, so they'll have. I think they'll get involved.
This is a pretty long-term contract. Again, I don't foresee them getting involved in the creative process, just for the simple fact that consistently, even at its worst, WWE was pulling in like 1 to 1.5 million views every week, and that's on date. Like, that's live, right? Like, that's watching it live on cable, and it's been that way for years. Obviously, you have fluctuations with like big shows. Obviously, the first Raw after WrestleMania is always a huge viewership because people don't want to sit through a 2-day pay-per-view. They'll just get the highlights on Raw. So you'll have those big swings with episodes like that, but consistently, I mean, 1 to 1.5 million viewers live, not to mention people that are going to come back and watch it either again or later. That's a big draw, because like on cable, you'd have to wait for a rerun. Like, you didn't get to watch it live. You either had to wait for it to go to Peacock, which took 2 weeks, or you had to catch it on a rerun. So most people just watched it live. So like, there's definitely some advantages. And again, I don't see Netflix poking too much, especially with TKO being the controlling stake of WWE.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what their contract looks like and stuff, because I don't know. I know you're right, like in the sense of they won't know how to run the industry and things like that, but Netflix is just so like, you did so much for me, but like you had a bad show, so fuck off.
I mean,
like,
one bad show is not going to cancel the entire thing, right? But
no,
again,
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, as to what will push them to be involved.
Given how much money WWE generates, if Netflix just cuts bait, they'll land somewhere else. Like, that's not an issue.
Well, I mean, I don't think Netflix is going to cut them unless they start like costing them more money than they're making, really.
Yeah. And WWE comes with the added benefit of having live events where people purchase tickets to attend. Right. That's always the draw.
True. That's a huge influx and change of revenue, so that's valid.
Yeah. Because, like, obviously the stadium gets their cut, the vendors at the stadium gets their cut. But again, you talk about people that are paying overinflated prices for merch. This belt online, way cheaper than it is at the live event. I could have bought this exact same belt at the live event, and it was about 40% more, and people were buying them. You know, you get the specialty t-shirts where it's like Raw comes to Dallas or whatever. You know, you have some superstars that do like specialty shirts for like local sports teams. Jimmy Uso had a Dallas Stars shirt that you could buy. Obviously, those are going to be a huge seller in Dallas at the American Airlines Center, you know? So yeah, they have plenty of ways to generate money. And of course, Netflix is going to get their cut. But Netflix also has the added benefit of dumping money back into WWE as well, because now we have, again, laser shows. We've got Pyro again, which died during the Vince era because he didn't like Pyro.
I mean, and people were getting set on fire and stuff. Like,
one person
Triple H
got set on
got
fire.
burned real good. And
no,
like,
it didn't.
Yeah, it was Triple H.
No,
or
Undertaker got burned. Undertaker had second-degree burns.
I swear to God, something bad happened to Triple H. I don't know if it was burns or if it was the freezing stuff, but he had an injury coming in. Yeah.
How disappointed were y'all when you found out that Kane wasn't really burnt under that mask?
I'm going to be honest, I was more mad they weren't really brothers. Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, how are they not?
Now, it turns out he was just ugly under the mask. He was just not a handsome guy.
Well, and I know it's weird to give Eric this kind of credit, but I was also on that boat, Eric. Finding out they weren't really brothers was big to me. I was very surprised.
Everything's a lie.
Yeah, my whole life is a lie.
I mean, most of mine is, so it's okay.
For the longest time, I didn't realize that the Hardy Boys were actually brothers.
Yeah. That one I knew. They didn't look like it, but when you
No,
looked
they
it
look
up,
nothing alike.
like what you could look that one up though. We were older by the time they
Wrestling
came out
styles
and
are also
stuff.
wildly
Yeah.
different from one another. Like one was very like ground based and semi technical, and the other one's all high flying and danger. I was just like, they're not real brothers. There's no way. But they are. Also, the Dudley boys. Turns out none of them were brothers. They're not related to each other. Devon and Bubba Ray, not related.
Nah. What about the Bushwhackers? I don't remember. Okay, that's sad. I thought they were.
All a lie.
It's all a lie.
Nothing is real.
Glacier was still the best debut of a wrestler ever.
What?
Yeah, Google Glacier.
Yokozuna was the best intro to a new guy.
Google Glacier. WCW Glacier. And then tell me what he looks like. No, we're taking a pause until you actually do this, because you're going to get a solid laugh out of this, because I guarantee you've repressed that memory.
I'm planning our next episode. I've got a plan, and I want to announce it while we're on here. But hold on, I will look it up. What's his name?
Glacier. WCW Glacier.
Oh, I remember this dude.
Who does he look like?
100%. No, I mean, like, before I type it in, like, I remember he was some nerdy-looking dude with, like, blue and gray, wasn't he?
Yeah. Look at his picture, though, and tell me what he was ripping off.
Gee, I have no idea.
Sub-Zero.
I wonder what it
Yeah,
could be.
how could this possibly be a Mortal Kombat character?
Well, and he debuts in September of 1996. How weird.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. That one was one of my favorites. It was between that and the dude that came out in the Stormtrooper mask that had, like, the terrible...
It's not copyright infringement as long as we don't say the right word.
You know.
He's
No.
below zero.
Right? He's freezing.
The Shockmaster in WWF that came out in the bedazzled Stormtrooper helmet.
All right, but what I do want to get into is I love the wrestling. Wrestling is amazing. I'm very excited with the Netflix thing just because it is going to be easier to watch because everybody's got Netflix. It's going to be great for the show. Content will be good. We are going to come back to this because I am curious in like 6 months as to like what the numbers look like, how the events roll out, different things like that. So I do want to do a follow up because even though WWE was on Peacock, not as big as Netflix. No offense, Peacock. You're probably a good service. I don't know. So I do want to see how it goes and everything and want to do an update halfway through the year. Just because I think it's such a big perennial thing. Used a big word. Fuck yeah.
I'm going to make my prediction now then that viewership is going to stay right around the 2 million view mark once we finish this big upswing from the debut episodes.
I mean, I would agree. Like, it's not going to stay where it is now. That's physically fucking impossible. But I am curious as to if it's going to get a big bump. If it doesn't, what does Netflix do? Things like that. Netflix is quick to react, man. Like, they get a paper cut and they're like, let's cut this fucking finger off. So, like, I'm curious. Like, I know they're not going to cut him again. We all know it. And they're not. But what steps would they take if numbers aren't that good and things like that? So it'll be fun. But what I really want to touch on is our next episode because we definitely want to start previewing a little more for people so they have an idea of what we're going to do. We still have a few people on YouTube that are listening. So what I want to talk about next week is to go back to some of the tried and true stuff a little bit and have our main topic be so I'm trying to look and see all the ones that came out. I know so far Xbox Developers Direct Show came out. A lot of big games, a lot of things like that. We mentioned a few games already before, but I'd like to kind of jump into it, dive into it a little bit more, and see what other ones have already happened. I know all of them haven't happened yet, but I'm pretty sure there's a few other shows that have gone off in regards to what they're doing for the year. And my favorite thing is going to be the Doom. I can't wait to talk about that. Doom looks great. Kind of, to me, looks like a knockoff of fucking, like some mech stuff. So it's pretty cool. But Travis, what do you got, man?
I was going to say, you were talking about the preview for next week's episode, and I was going to ask if we were going to cover the economic policies and expenditures of sub-Saharan Africa. Just to get people thrilled and on topic.
Wait.
I have never done good in school, so topics like that are beyond me. Anytime I
recommend it every week, and we never go for it. It's like, that's not a nerdy topic,
One of these
I
days.
guess.
Yeah, look, like anytime I got to do a paper, I got to find something cool. When I went to an army leadership course, I picked Saudi Arabia because they were looking for beheaders. That was literally a job they were hunting for people for at the time. So that's what I based my entire research paper on.
Ryan,
for that.
Have you thought about moving? Maybe they'll bring back the like cool hood that they wore in like the medieval cartoons.
Right, there you go.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you could.
you just got to make sure your weapon's sharp enough. I think they talked about weapon sharpening was in the description. I don't remember. This was a long time ago now.
Ryan's good with hand tools. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll be all right.
But yeah, so that's what I want to go over. Is I definitely want to touch on some video games, and then of course we're going to go back to some Warhammer content.
Yeah.
I've been gathering different Warhammer comments from people on different sites and things like that, just to see what people are talking about the most. And I want to touch on some of those one week, but I want to make sure I got enough content to do an episode. But I definitely got some good ones you guys will enjoy.
There's no good guys in Warhammer.
No, there isn't. I've explained this to so that's how I explain it now to everybody. If anybody asks me if they see me reading a book, which is shocking, or like anything like that, I mention, I love it because
just
there's
what
no
if
good guys.
no one but bad guys ever won?
Yeah. But Vulcan's still coming back. So yeah, that's our plan next week. Definitely some Doom stuff, some Ninja Gaiden, things like that. It'll be a good time. Yeah.
Right. And
anything else? Anybody want to talk about before we go? Is there anything?
I do want to bring up the fact, same as I do close to the end of the episode always, guys, if you made it this far, obviously you're enjoying what you listen to. You're enjoying our take on wrestling and other parts of the Nerdverse. And so if you are enjoying what you're doing, we're going to kindly ask you to hit that like button. Maybe consider subscribing to the channel and telling your friends about us so they can join us too.
Don't consider, just do it. Just do it.
Don't think about it. Just commit.
I'm pretty. It's okay.
That's
do
what
it for
it is.
me.
We're really selling Eric here. But yeah, that kind of stuff really helps us keep the lights on around here, guys. Helps us keep making content like this. So if you like it, give us a like, give us a follow, and tell your friends about us. Appreciate it.
And with that, we'll bring this episode to a close. We're crossing the Nerdverse. This week's topic was wrestling, and we will catch you next week for some more gaming news. See ya.
Later, guys.
Go Habs.
Pikachu. Why not? I'll add something.
Yeah,
in there.
Pikachu.